It is usually customary to talk about the atrocities of the German fascists and their local traitor henchmen. However, in the Second World War, together with Nazi Germany, its allies also participated: Italy, Romania, Hungary, Finland, and others. Let's talk about the Hungarians today. What they did on the Eastern Front is truly beyond comprehension. Relations between Germany and Hungary. Since the early 20s of the 20th century, Hungary was ruled by Admiral Miklos Horthy, being the regent and in fact the authorized dictator of the Kingdom of Hungary. As people joked back then, an admiral without a fleet rules a kingdom without a king. However, the reason why this happened is a separate topic. Today we will be interested in the relationship between Horthy Hungary and Nazi Germany, and how the former ended up being part of the Anti-Comintern Pact. After the end of World War I, which the Austro-Hungarian Empire as an ally of Kaiser Germany lost, the territory of Hungary from 324,000 square kilometers was immediately reduced to 93,000 square kilometers. Most of the lands went to Romania, Transylvania, and also partially to Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. Therefore, in Hungary, as in Germany, feelings of revenge were strong. With this bait, Hitler hooked the dictator. Hungary took an active part in the division of Czechoslovakia together with Germany in 1938. Then the Hungarian army, together with the German army, invaded Yugoslavia through Hungarian territory in 1940. Eastern Front. However, when it came to the USSR, Miklos Horthy showed indecisiveness, and then his German ally, in their own specific manner, launched a provocation. On June 26, 1941, German pilots attacked the Slovak town of Kassa, which had become Hungarian since 1938, using captured Soviet aircraft. After this, Hungary had to declare war on the USSR. Thus, Hungary became a full-fledged participant in World War II. In this war, Hungarian soldiers and officers showed themselves at their worst. The Hungarians began their series of crimes and atrocities from Ukraine. Here they actively fought with units of the Red Army who were lagging behind and were surrounded. And as a rule, they did not take prisoners, and if they did, it was for only one purpose: to abuse them and kill them anyway. All prisoners were mutilated and burned alive. Burning alive was one of the favorite executions applied by the Hungarians to everyone indiscriminately. Prisoners of war, civilians, men, women, children. Showing not the best results at the front, the Hungarians took revenge in the rear, in the fight against partisans and carrying out punitive actions against civilians. Punitive operations. The German-Hungarian Punishers gave poetic names to their punitive operations: Gypsy Baron, Songbird, Neighborhood Help, etc. During 1942-1943, participating in punitive operations in Ukraine, Belarus, and Bryansk region, Hungarian punitive forces destroyed about 200 partisans' bases, killed 1,500 partisans, captured the same number, and tortured them to death. On the conscience of the Hungarian army are thousands and thousands of civilians in Soviet villages and cities. Here are just some evidence of their atrocities. I got the impression that the combing through the forest located west of Punitive did not bring results because some of the partisans live in the surrounding villages, constantly disguised as civilians, or periodically run there from the forest. Therefore, Yatsino, Cherepovo, Ivanovskoye, Sesulina, and further surrounding villages, which must be identified by the 32nd Infantry Regiment, are subject to burning, and the entire male population from 15 to 60 years old is subject to extermination. And this is a quote from the diary of Hungarian General Karoly Bogany, dated June 25, 1942. Residents of the village of Polnikovo, accused of the death of Hungarian soldiers, had to dig their own grave. They were captured by the Punishers during a trip to collect hay. Without any reason, interrogation, or analysis of the case, they were indiscriminately accused and executed. From the diary of the Honved Ferenc Boldizar, 46th Company. When we entered the village, I set fire to the first 3 houses myself. We killed men, women, children, and burned the village. Then we moved on. Our splendid hussars set fire to the village, and the 3rd Company set it on fire with rockets. From there, we went on a reconnaissance. During the time we spent in reconnaissance, the hussars burned 6 villages. Here is a testimony of Mazerkova, a peasant woman from the Seversky district of the Bryansk region. When we saw the men of our village, they said they were partisans. And on the same date, May 20th, 1942, they seized my husband Sidor Borisovich Mazerkov, born in 1862, and my son Alexei Sidorovich Mazerkov, born in 1927, and tortured them. And after these tortures, they tied their hands and threw them into a pit, then set fire to straw and burned them in a potato pit. On the same day, they not only burned my husband and son, they also burned 67 men. One of the favorite pastime of the Hungarians was the rape of women, all in a row, indiscriminately, elderly, young, minors. After the rape, victims were often killed or beaten within an inch of their lives. A peasant from the Bryansk region, Krutichin, noted in his testimony that in his village, the Hungarians raped all the girls and women and shot everyone who did not have time to hide. The Hungarians stole cattle from the villages and stole all more or less valuable things from the houses. According to local archives, the Sevsky district of the Bryansk region alone, the Hungarians killed more than 400 residents of different genders and ages. In 1943, 360 prisoners of war and local residents were burned alive in Kursk region. In the village of Kharkivka, Kursk region, they bayoneted 4 Red Army soldiers and buried them while still alive. In the village of Shuchye, as soon as the Hungarians occupied the village, they immediately shot the peasant Kuzmenko because they found 4 rifle cartridges on him. The wounded political instructor Bolshikov had stars cut on his hands and his whole body stabbed with knives. Captured wounded Lieutenant Selagup was tortured throughout the day to death. Many women were raped. All peasant livestock was stolen. From the testimony of a resident of the village of Karpilovka, they ordered us to take shovels, gathered about 40 of us to the anti-tank ditch, and ordered us to bury the ditch with the shot corpses. The ditch was approximately 30 meters long and 2 meters wide. The corpses lay in disarray and it was difficult to establish traces of firearms because it was a bloody mess of old men, old women and teenagers. It was a horrible sight, and I couldn't see where their wounds were or where they were being shot. According to the Hungarian historian Thomas Kraus, German and Hungarian military units of the Chernigov region alone killed about 100,000 civilians and also tortured and killed several thousand prisoners of war. These are impressive numbers. The commander of the Voronezh front, then Colonel General Vatutin, having learned the reports about the atrocities of Hungarian soldiers, gave the order not to take Hungarians prisoners. Soon a group of 200,000 Hungarian troops near Voronezh was defeated. The Hungarians lost 148,000 people in killed, wounded and prisoners alone. By the way, the eldest son of the Hungarian dictator István Horthy was also killed in these battles.